what is it? 196 rounds. 196, 3 times, 180, right?
92.
Huh?
192.
192. It's like 64 times 3, right? 12, yeah, 92. 192. Right. So Prabhupada said, who can imitate? Who can do like Haridas Thakur? Who was given the name Namacharya? Come on, we cannot imitate. Therefore, this knowledge of the Vedas, although, especially in the context, you see, Prabhupada was, each acharya, he preaches according to time, place, and circumstance. Although the knowledge of the Vedas remains intact and the same. But Prabhupada, understanding the fallen, the major deviation that we talked about a little earlier, wanted us to gradually reintroduce, the standard systems that are there in the Vedas that are not meant to be changed, and which includes the social system of Varna and Ashrama, and which is also connected with these transcendental Vedic sciences. Although initially Prabhupada was giving less emphasis, because Prabhupada had an urgent task at hand, to very quickly transplant, this culture, this Vedic culture. And he went to the essence in terms of getting people to chant the holy name and to practice bhakti. But he also explained that the standard system, which is part of Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma is not only about bhakti. Sanatana Dharma is also about what is the best process in this material world for the conditioned souls to follow in order to come to that level of bhakti. So therefore, our, for example, educational system, which we still don't have in place within our society. We are very far from having our proper educational system in place after so many years. Our educational system must be based on the Vedas, must be based on the traditional sciences that are given in the Vedas, must include, when we speak of ahaitukiya pratihata yagatma suprasiditi. Yagatma suprasiditi, Prabhupada explains, Atma is not simply the soul. Atma also means his body. Atma means also our psychological needs. Atma also has to do with social needs. We are social beings. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur makes reference actually to this social dimension in the Brahma Samhita at the very end. It's very interesting actually how, when we think of the Brahma Samhita, we think naturally of Lord Brahma, because it is Lord Brahma's prayers to Lord Krishna. But actually at the end of his prayers, at the end of Lord Brahma's prayers in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Krishna speaks 5 verses. And it's very interesting because he explains to Lord Brahma that because you're still having some material desires, still you should follow this process. And in one of those purports, which are given by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he speaks about this social aspect or social dimension. Because sometimes devotees will say, we have nothing to do with social responsibility, or we have nothing to do with the varnas and the ashramas, or it is very secondary. In one sense, it is secondary in that it is material, but it is also essential in that as long as we are here, and this is one of the statements made by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as long as we are here in this material world, and especially as long as we are conditioned, we must take shelter of the system given by Krishna to gradually help us elevate ourselves from the lower modes of material nature to the, at least, become situated in the mode of goodness. So the topic here is, of course, a very important one in terms of Vedas and how the whole of mankind needs to ultimately, for things to go in the proper direction, the whole of mankind, which means all the leaders in different countries must take, regardless of their religion. This is something that religious leaders to this day do not understand. And that's part of our responsibility as preachers, to make religious leaders understand that actually, whether you're a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist or whatever, of course for Buddhism it might be a little more difficult because they have rejected the Vedas. But we need to make them understand that actually all of the teachings of Lord Buddha, as we were discussing yesterday or the other day, are all taken actually from the Vedas. You see, we can establish that, we can demonstrate that. And for all of the other leaders of different denominations, we need to bring them, and that's why the Bhagavatam is so important. Because both the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, we need to make people understand, are not just some religious books that belong to Hindus. They are eternal books of knowledge. They are eternal standard books of knowledge for all of humanity. Regardless of what particular spiritual leader you may follow. Because actually the Vedic knowledge especially is helping us understand the basic fundamental principles of religiosity. The basic fundamental principles of religiosity means of all the religions, you see. And therefore, it means that every government should base their policies and should enact their various, whatever they...
Legislation.
Yeah, legislation is the word I'm looking for. All of their legislation must be in line with the Vedic knowledge.